Your attention towards the front here. Mary has a presentation for you, but you certainly can get up and get your cookies and cupcakes or coffee. Let me know if we need to make more, okay? Please sit back and enjoy. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you very much. I have lived in the Dunlap, not downtown Dunlap, but outer Dunlap for about 50 years. So only 747,000 times have I driven past this church and that church. So anyway, my name is Mary Burdett, and I'm the vice president, sort of serving as the president of the Colerain Historical Society this year. And we have presented, Chris Henson has prepared a not very long presentation with church history and a little bit of Beavis history, and then I have other Beavis information also. And we also have some wonderful calendar pages from Frank Scholey, who did the calendars from 1998 through 2012. So we have some laminated papers, so I'll have them passed out. You can just pass them around and look at them and gain some history of the Beavis area. I have an old map. I have information about the Beavis family. I had to slide it over by the cake because there was a reason this area was named Beavis. Indeed, for the Beavis family, who were movers and shakers and lots of landowner. They had lots of land in the various parts of their family, so they recognized them by calling it Beavis. And Beavis is really Springdale and Blue Rock, Springdale and Colerain. Now, of course, we call it Northgate, and the Northgate Mall is there because that was the north toll gate to go into Cincinnati. And of course, Cincinnati had plenty of places to slaughter your animals, and we had plenty of animals. Butler County animals, Indiana animals, they all came down the road, and everybody had to pay a toll for whatever it was you were taking on the roadway. Also, the toll then helped buy gravel and stone to keep the roadway passable, because there wasn't anything like a blacktop machine then. So, all righty. Since we are the Historical Society, we need to look back in history. And established in 1790, the first settlement in this area we now call Colerain Township was Dunlap Station. So I guess maybe, there you go. This is an artist rendering of Dunlap Station. If anyone has, in the last year, 2, 3 years, gone to the rotunda at the administration building, voila, there it is in all its glory. A model, a 4x8 model of Dunlap Station, prepared lovingly by Bob Mullenhard, who kept it in his basement for years, schlepped it up and down the steps to carry to events or activities. And he saw, I don't know if it was me, someone from the Historical Society, probably in his 90s, said, "Do you think maybe the Historical Society might want this model?" Let me think, Bob. So yes, we schlepped it the last time up the steps of his basement. Okay, that's falling. And so it was in the museum for a while, maybe it needs tightening, and now it's in the rotunda for everyone to see. So when you got an extra few minutes or somebody comes to town, that's the start of our township in 1790. And I guess we're ready. In 1792, 9-year-old Jesse Beavis, arrived with his parents, Isher and Anna Beavis, and they settled in the area just outside the station along the banks of the Great Miami River. Okay. In 1816, at age 33, Jesse Beavis bought a tract of land from John Cleves Sims and built a log cabin. 2 years later, he erected a frame home. You know what she has on there, okay? This was the start of the Beavis settlement along Colerain Turnpike. And the other cabins and farms in the area considered the Beavis home to be the community center, which meant that's where they met. Maybe they voted there. Lots of things happened there, okay? Within a few years, the Beavis home expanded to serve as the post office, general store, and tavern. So we know what happened there then. Okay. Among the travelers was Reverend Elias Wiggle Hoffner, an itinerant traveler who travels from place to place, minister of the United Brethren Church of Christ. Now, Jesse Beavis was a member of the New Light Church in New Burlington, but Reverend Hoffner secured permission from Jesse to hold religious meetings in Beavis Tavern. Let's think about that. Okay. After several years, the informal group organized as a congregation, and in 1842, on land granted by Jesse Beavis, a church building was erected at Colerain and Dry Ridge Road. Jesse Beavis died in 1863. This building served the rural community for 50 years until it was replaced in 1892 by a larger, more substantial building. And membership in the church remained at about 92 from 1892 until World War II. In 1895, David Beavis Sr., a son of Jesse Beavis, presented the Beavis Church with 12 shares of Little Miami Railroad stock to be kept in trust, with the dividends to be applied to church expenses. In 1938, the fund was still intact and produced annual dividends. For the next 72 years, 1964, the congregation of the First Beavis United Brethren Church of Christ met in this building, which we all pretty much know now as the Lodge. Indeed, it is now owned by a funeral home. Only a few feet away from the grave of Jesse Beavis. Right there where the green arrow is, that's Jesse Beavis. Okay, in 1924, at age 12, Mildred Haviland became a member of Beavis Church. In 1927, at age 15, she became the church organist, served in that position for the next 72 years. She married Howard Hook in 1937. These are the 1938 trustees, serious guys. Okay, in 1946, the Beavis Church became the Beavis Evangelical United Brethren Church, uniting the United Brethren and evangelical churches of Southern Ohio. Circuit preachers served the church until the 1950s. Is that here? Is that a real? Yeah. I don't know. But it looks like a stained glass. Well, it looks like it should be here. Okay. Circuit preachers served the church until the 1950s. The last circuit preacher was Reverend Griffith, who served both Beavis and Dunlap EUB churches. In 1957, Reverend Edgar Schrader became the first full-time pastor. Okay. After World War II ended, there was a spurt in building in Colerain Township. To meet the new challenge, the church congregation set the sights on the future. In 1957, a new parsonage was built at the cost of $15,000. That might get a bathroom today. In 1958, the Ohio-Miami Conference of the Evangelical United Brethren Churches approved helping the Beavis Church to purchase 12 acres of land for $39,000 at the corner of Colerain and Day. Yee-hoo! This was the last remaining parcel of the Houston family farm. Now that I did not know. Considering Houstons live more that way. But it's funny, when you look at that 1869 map, you will find Beavises everywhere out this way. Now, I don't think we saw them so much south in the township, but boy. And then you'll find the same with other families. They have little pieces and parcels throughout the township. Okay, in 1960, Reverend Marvin McRoberts became pastor, and for the first time in church history, the congregation assumed the total salary of its minister. I would probably say not even Friendship Baptist paid a full. We had a bivocational, when I started going in there, he had a job and was the full-time minister. So that was a good thing that they were able to do. Also in 1960, the church created a building committee to work with an architect on a new master plan for the new church site at 10507. Is that what we are now? 105. The committee include Walter Ballauer, Otto Groney. Okay, I knew somebody was sort of that name. Howard Hook, mover and a shaker in the township. Oscar New, Gordon Shearing, mover and shaker family. Ted Schneider and Morris Bud Shunk. The first step would be to erect a new church building at a new location. And the church selected a new name, submitted by Carol Shunk, Prince of Peace Evangelical United Brethren Church. Okay. Heave ho! On April 15th, 1962, the members of the Prince of Peace Evangelical United Brethren Church revived a tradition when they broke ground for the new church, having members join together and pull a plow. Anybody here was there? Were you there? We're going to say he might have been a little to pull a plow. Does she have a picture of it? Yes. Many familiar families are present. Abbotts, Argos, Astons, Bellowers, Bayers, Bernhardts, Dislers, and Gronies. Henshins, Hooks, News, Nortons, Shearings, Shunks, Vogels, and Wadles? Oh, okay. No wonder it didn't make sense. All right. It took a little over a year for the new building to be erected at the cost of $76,000. Again, a bathroom today. Okay. With the dedication on October 14th, 1962, the new Prince of Peace EUB began a new chapter in its history. And today the congregation is celebrating 60 years, as you well know, at this location. And when I've been talking to people about coming today, I would say, now wait, they're celebrating 60 years in this spot, not 60 years as a church. Friendship is going to be 75 in 2 more years, and that's a great accomplishment. 60 years is a great accomplishment in today's world, but 60 years in the same spot, not the beginning of the church, is extraordinary. So feel proud, everybody. Founded in 1842, it's in its 180th year. Is that correct? 100. Yeah. So I know no one here is from the beginning. Okay, the next is 2 Historical Society members attended Prince of Peace Church, sister and brother Terry and Jeff Moore. Their parents were Willard A. Woody and Maud D. Moore, and grandfather was Willard Fox Moore. And we asked them to write a memory, and this is Terry's memory. Did anybody else write any memories? If not, go home today and write memories and give them, make sure Gail gets them. Okay. This is Terry. In 1960, my family began associating with the Beavis Evangelical United Brethren Church adjacent to the Beavis Cedar Grove Cemetery. I sang in the choir there alongside Lana Aston, a wonderful soprano. Her rendition of "O Holy Night" would bring anyone to tears. And Bally Snap, who had a beautiful male falsetto voice. Okay, and Mildred Hook was the organist. She would also play the old portable pump organ that they would take outside for Easter sunrise service. At the new church property, I remember on the day of groundbreaking, the daffodils and jonquils were just blooming. We had a prayer, a ribbon cutting, and then several spades of earth were dug out. It took almost a year, I think, for the building to be complete. It was a modern slant roof building of beige brick with tall windows on the basement level by the parking lot and the second floor sanctuary on the opposite side. I remember my mother and other women of the church selecting the style and the wood for the pews and the vinyl covered cushions to go on them. They chose that Howard Johnson orange that was so popular in the 1960s. My father was a woodworker and was asked to create the cross for the altar. I remember him selecting the wood, cutting it, hand gouging the pits into it to make it look rugged. It was a beautiful blonde maple finished with a light stain and oil finish. Sometime later, it was decided that since the wooden pews and other finishes in the sanctuary were also of lighter wood, the cross would be stained darker, what my father called baby poop brown. He felt discouraged that his finely crafted masterpiece was going to be defiled, but apparently not defiled. There was an old wood farmhouse on the sanctuary side of the building. I think we can go, yep. I forgot, there you go. That served as the Sunday school building. The women's group would meet there when they planned the church bazaars. These were so much fun as the church families would make crafts to sell them before Christmas time. We kids spent hours weaving loop pot holders and pinning ribbons into styrofoam balls for ornaments. It was exciting to see all the family's creations on display. My brother Jeff's Boy Scout troop was tasked to create an outdoor sanctuary at the back of that wooded property. It was quite a project, and I got to help. When completed, the outdoor sanctuary was the site of Easter sunrise services. Okay. Do we have, yep, there it is. I continue to sing with the choir at church, with Mildred Hook still playing the organ. I always had a feeling of serenity when we would procession up the aisle singing, "Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise him, all creatures here below. Praise him above, ye heavenly host. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost." That's an old-time songy for me, because when I was younger, I went to St. Paul. Mother's Day was special. Let's see, we'll catch a Mother's Day. Nope, that's all the same. Because each mom in attendance would receive a potted flower, and the oldest and youngest moms were called to the front of the sanctuary to be acknowledged and receive a large potted flower. In 1968, the church became United Methodist Church. My parents, they decided that sometime after that, they would move. Then said later years, she became the choir director at the Prince of Peace UMC. Between 1977 and 81, she went to UC College Conservatory for 2 years. And so Mildred Hook, still here, invited her to take the post. They have several professional Christmas cantatas, and The choir was excited and freshly motivated by new vocal material. Okay. Both of my children, now we're on that back one. Go back one, if you will. They were both christened at Prince of Peace, and over the years, whenever she's in the area and drive past the church, I flash back to those very fond memories about Prince of Peace Church and my time amongst its congregation. Okay, now we're on Jeff's story. This is about the chapel. The Boy Scout troop was challenged by the minister to build an outdoor chapel. He wanted to do services outside in the forest behind the church. They got their equipment together, saws, hammers, knives, nails, everything they needed, started digging a path from the back of the pasture behind the church down into the ravine that went into the woods. Is that chapel still there? Might need a little refreshing, maybe. We were to build the chapel on the island in between the two ravines, clear the grass, leaves, and roots off of the path, and several wheelbarrows, and had to backfill the path with gravel so you wouldn't have to walk in the mud, of course. They put logs across to make steps and built up gravel to keep the path from washing away. When they got close to the bottom, 2 big logs were laid across the ravine and then nailed boards across to make a bridge. The logs had to be dug down into the ground so they wouldn't move around. The bridge took you to the center part of the Y island. And then they sunk poles into and put boards and made benches for the parishioners. And they built an altar after they got that part done where the two ravines come together. So they created a Y-shaped amphitheater. And of course, a lot of work to lay the gravel. And so eventually they got the project done. Jack Toothman was a scoutmaster at that time. Okay, 1965, the Evangelical United Brethren churches and Methodist churches united to form the United Methodist Church, and so Prince of Peace became the Prince of Peace United Methodist Church. And Reverend McRoberts left to take a commission as a chaplain in the U.S. Army in 1968, and Charles Selby became a new minister, and then he took a new post, and Richard, is it Waddle, became minister. And then in 1970, the manse moved to 4350 Day Road, and the new minister and his young family moved into that. Okay. I'm not sure what this is, but it says, let's travel back in time a few years. 1963, 3 people of a congregation began meeting at Taylor Elementary. Groesbeck Methodist, Forest Chapel Methodist assisted the new congregation, and then in May they had 33 members and named their group Christ Methodist Church. And they continued to grow, and they moved into a house on Springdale, and by 1970, Christ Methodist Church is struggling. The boards of Christ and Prince of Peace decided to merge. And I got it. I did not know that. All right. So now it's Christ, the Prince of Peace, United Methodist Church. There is always a reason for everything. Oh, okay. Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes. And then, I don't know, I guess she has a picture of, is it Grebner? Okay, and then Elaine Klinger and Rick Davis. Oh wait, Carol Shunk. Right, yes, it says that here. become a lay preacher. And then Rick Davis, 1994, a new church sanctuary is built for $160,000. Probably can't do that today either. 4 stained glass windows are installed, but not that one, right? That one we saw? No. Port Cochere was built in the memory of Shirley Wyatt, and I'm sure it's very convenient for many, many people, just like I used it today to unload my stuff. From pastors from 94 to 22, and I'm sure you have all of this somewhere here, but she included it, and so they're just names of the people. So is there any questions about this part? Although I do think maybe we should find that glass, what looks like stained glass. I like that. So, all righty. So church is an important part of the growth of Beavis. Beavis, of course, was a little sleepy village, and this is all off the top of my head now. Sleepy village, named after the Beavis family. Does anyone in here remember the Beavis Tavern there on Colerain? Long, skinny building, we'll say. Yeah. Well, I would never go in the building, but only time I ever went in was time to build the float for the high school. And we would get napkins for the oh, everybody built their own in a different one. Yeah, I built on Springdale Road. Sure, it was an Egbert house. They had a good barn. Yeah, we used the Lights barn on Brem Road 1 year because I talked them into it. So. But anyway, Beavis has a long history, lot of business and housing and everything. There's, of course, does anyone in here actually remember the airport? Right. The airport was and you know why it was the Mount Healthy Airport and not the Colerain Airport? The airport had to have a post office tied to it. And by then, all the post offices in Colerain were gone. So there wasn't just the Mount Healthy post office. So hang on just a second. I want to pass some. I think that's great. The people that lived there before this family also had young kids that grew up there in the schoolhouse. And they have all the information we have, so they were appreciative to know the history of their house. This is a picture that was made in the bicentennial time frame for us. It's a picture at the top is Northgate Mall. Remember, North Gate of the route to get to Cincinnati. And at the bottom is a picture of the airport. And so I'll have this laying on the table. And then as you look at the other pictures, it's interesting to see what kind of businesses and activities happened in the Beavis area. I belong to the Mount Healthy chapter of the Isaac Walton League of America, and we are over off of Redskin and next door to Clifford Park. We are the Mount Healthy chapter because all the guys who started that chapter lived in Mount Healthy, but they couldn't find property, so they came to the wilderness of Beavis. And we have a little over, I think, 8 acres and a lake. And so, again, we're the Mount Healthy chapter, but we're not anywhere near Mount Healthy. So, again, there's lots of businesses. And I tried to do a little project a few years ago where I gave an intersection and you told me what was at the intersection. And if you want to, you can do that. Just make a big mark on your paper and put what was at the corner, what was away from the corner, anything. Bring it in, Gail, you'll hang on to it for me and send me an email. And then we would love to have that history because everybody in here has history. And as a historical society, we want to pick your brains. And if you have old photos or any information about any part of the township, we would love to have that. We can take your photos and scan them and give them back to you. Just give us a little story about the photos. And so it's a big important part of developing and keeping the history of Colerain Township. And that's what we volunteer our time. Of course, you know we get paid big bucks. And it's like all the volunteers here, right? And so, okay. Does anybody else have any questions about Beavis? I'm originally a Peach Grove person, but now I'm a Dunlap person. So if you grew up in the township, you kind of identify by what area you lived in, and maybe if you had to move, then what area you moved to. So we appreciate any information the Historical Society does, and you are prime examples of people that can give us history. And really, we don't ask, you don't have to prove anything. It's called oral history. All you have to do is, instead of saying it out loud, is just write it down on a piece of paper. And we would be glad to have any of that information, because we do want to know our history, because 25 years from now, there won't be too many people with old history. So did you have a question, Gail? And to me, that's a very important part of the church history, that you know when that was put in, and if you do have a list of what was in it. And then, guess what? Pick a day. Pick a day, take it out, record it, put today's information in, and seal it back up again. Right. Right. Okay, I'm going to start the Northgate picture around. Oh, you're welcome.